and I was thinking about events and what their function were, like what are coffee festivals doing in our industry and how are they helping and where are they hurting as well, because you can accidentally replicate problematic power dynamics or continue to platform the same people that have always been platformed. And I really wanted to be intentional about sort of the programming side of it. So it was just a no-brainer to me to bring interpreters in. We're very, very, very guilty of pointing out, you know, we've got a labour crisis. Like nobody wants to work in coffee anymore, but we're not really good at doing the next bit, which is like, why? When there's a whole community of people who aren't working in your industry, that's because you're not creating the space for them. And we have this really unfortunate habit of being waited to be told or asked on how to accommodate for people. A lot of the people who have really helped me, who have really like opened these doors and made space and supported me, are women. They aren't buying the lie that there's a finite amount of space. They're saying, hell no, we need to rebake the pie. This isn't a matter of you having a bit of my wedge. We're making a new one. Hey, Grace. Hey, Rosie. How very nice to see you.
So nice to see you. It's not like we've done this before or anything.
No, don't spoil the magic.
Sorry.
This is the very first time we've just seen each other for the first time in weeks.
First time in weeks.
I mean, actually, I think I saw you last Saturday, didn't I? Although not as much as I'd like, have to say, to get one-on-one time.
No, very
Busy.
Little of that. Because you were very busy.
Yeah, also you. We were busy bees adjacent to each other.
In very different ways, I think.
Yeah?
I don't know. You had a lot going on, which I'd love to talk about.
Shall we discuss it here on the podcast today?
Famously, it's about you and not about me. So
Oh, God.
Yeah. You were emceeing at Bristol Coffee Festival.
I was.
Very
lucky.
How was that?
Yeah, do you know what? So I think we'll probably get into this, but last year was really difficult for me, and I had that surgery and I was, you know, not doing so great in lots of ways. And Joanna, who puts on Bristol Coffee Festival, she was actually the first person I met up with outside of my home, and she invited me to MC a Bristol Coffee Festival last year, and I felt a million things, but particularly so privileged that she wanted me to be involved in it, because at the time I felt a little bit like tainted and a bit, my body wasn't working. And so her asking me last year just meant so much, that this year doing it again and having progressed so much sort of physically and in my job now where I'm so happy, just felt like really emotional. I was talking to Justin and Izzy at one point and I was like, I'm just so happy to be here. So good. That's a long-winded answer of saying, yeah, I always feel very privileged to be able to do these things, but particularly special love and big shout out to Joanna, because she's amazing.
She is amazing.
Yeah, she is.
Massive shout out to Joanna.
Yeah, we love her.
Also, just say we're very privileged to have you as MC. I did try and make it for one of the.
You watched the roast, yeah,
the roasting of the roaster.
Big up, Justin.
Yeah, I have to
what
say,
a glorious human.
I don't think there's anyone else that could like
take it with such grace, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And was thoroughly entertained. Actually, we are currently in Dare Shack.
Yes, we are. Must shout out.
It was Dare Shack comedians who were roasting Justin. So
yes, the entertainment partners for Bristol Coffee Festival 2025 were the Dare Shack, who presented The Gaff, which is a comedy club that happens here at the Dare Shack, I think in this very room occasionally. But yeah, so it's nice, like meta. Is that meta? That's not meta. There's a good link there. Maybe edit out my
We're not editing out anything.
Oh, then you're welcome, listeners. You're welcome. I'm smart.
We were just saying this would make a very nice like breakout room to like come and chill.
Yeah, when you need to like
get away from the
dissociate a little bit from being a person and being perceived and vibrating from all the caffeine you've consumed. This would be lovely.
It would be nice. Maybe without
maybe
the
I was
lights.
just saying, maybe without like the spotlight. Could feel a bit like you're in an interrogation if the spotlights remained. But yeah, otherwise, lovely.
An interrogation, exactly what we're here to do today.
Hey! That's why I'm nervous. Okay. Oh God. I confess I did it. I don't know what it was, but I did it.
Now I do feel, I mean, I am going to ask you pretty much about like your entire career.
Okay.
Which actually,
How long you
if
got?
it's okay for us to share,
Yeah.
I did just before we hit record on this find out that you were.
Oh my god.
Do you want people to know that?
No, I'm totally fine. I just
I just like, how long have I known you and didn't know that you were like sorry, did you say professional ice skater?
Yeah, so I used to compete.
Oh my god.
I said originally it's not explicitly related to my career in coffee, but I also think you don't always know what domino is being knocked into the next one, do you? Ironically enough, the synchronized skating club that I was part of, we were called the Dominoes. So now I'm like,
Hey,
oh my god, the universe is saying things.
there's a lot of meta things
maybe
going on.
meta is really
I'm just gonna say that's what's happening of like things being linked together.
Yeah, and I don't know. So I used to. I grew up watching the ice hockey. My dad used to take me and my brothers every Sunday. We were in like Birmingham, but Solihull is where we used to go and watch it. And I used to think ice hockey, and I still think actually was like one of the coolest sports. And I wanted to play ice hockey, but I was also quite, and I remain quite a sensitive little flower. Yeah, I mean,
seems quite aggressive.
yeah,
to
I
be
wasn't
honest.
really. I was like, I love the idea of this, but then in actuality, like big people coming at you at speed, I would just sort of go in the opposite direction,
Yeah.
which I understand is not the route to successful hockey playing. But so I ended up doing figure skating, which is much more flouncy and less aggressive. Although actually, I tell you what, behind the scenes, figure skaters are pretty, or at
I've
least
seen that
a
film.
million years ago when I did it. Yeah, there's a lot
I,
of
Tonya?
yeah. So I was gonna say, like, famously, not the most welcoming or safe environment. It's very, very, very competitive, and it gets more you do, the more competitive it gets. And there's a lot of pressure on people. Like I was lucky because my family weren't. I wanted to do this. My family weren't looking for me to like live their dreams, but there were a lot of people that I encountered in the skating scene who were definitely experiencing a lot of pressure to perform, which then translated as quite a lot of like unpleasantness behind the scenes. So yeah, I don't do it anymore. I got injured and then sort of was out while I was injured, and then just couldn't really make it a priority anymore. I think I was about 16, 17 by that point, and I moved out when I was a teenager and other things came up. It's also really expensive. But I still watch the hockey. I still support the ice hockey. I am a Coventry Blaze fan, if anybody is listening who is also a Coventry Blaze fan. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Like, it's not coffee, but it was a lot of fun. I have some silly pictures of me in some silly sparkly outfits somewhere I can dig out, I'm sure, if anybody wants to see.
I mean, I just pictures of me in silly sparkly outfits just now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, true.
other than the figure skating,
Uh-huh.
your coffee career started at Waterstones,
Yeah,
Um,
true.
which you were starting out as a bookseller
Yeah,
and then progressed to doing bookselling and baristaing
yes.
with a new concept that Waterstones were bringing in. Which is
Yeah.
a very cool concept, I
Look
think.
at you know all the things. Yeah.
You wouldn't believe I've got it written down here about you.
Ooh.
That was a passion of yours. Was books.
Books. Yeah.
Did the passion for coffee come from that experience, or was there like a passion for coffee previous?
I think, honestly, this is such a, like, I am such a product of my generation, aren't I? But I think I had the, like, conceptual love of coffee, as in I wanted people to think of me as one of those people who's like, oh, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee. You know, like in the early noughties, there were a lot of slogan T-shirts that just were like, instead of having a personality, you liked coffee. Largely driven by like the Gilmore Girls sort of coffee love of it all, right? So I think at that time in my life, I was out and out book nerd, like still am, loved reading, and thought it gave me like a quirky, arty edge to like coffee.
It does,
but
by the way.
Yeah.
Surely.
Obviously. Sorry, we're all horribly original people. I definitely don't have like tattoos and a slightly mullety haircut. I'm not like a product of the industry I work in or anything like that. No. But yeah, so I think I I wanted to be aligned with what I thought coffee was as a like personality quality. When I was working at Waterstones, I liked this idea of being like, oh, I study so hard that I need to drink coffee, all of this. But then when I actually started working in coffee at Waterstones, and we went through that expansion where James Daunt wanted the coffee shops in Waterstones to feel more like your local coffee shop than like a big chain, because he was trying to make the bookshop feel like your local bookshop and not a chain. That was when I started actually being trained on coffee, because I was now a coffee shop manager, and then did quite well at that and was able to go to the roastery headquarters. I've told this story so many times, but I still think it's so important because, yeah.
I mean, not like, we all need to hear it, and
the moment.
I'm not sorry if you've heard this before, by the way. We'll need to hear it again. So, yeah.
Well, like, I'd been now working in cafes for a little while, and I'd progressed to area manager, and I was opening up a bunch of these cafes all over, and was being exposed to ideas about like speed of service and flow and bar layout and things like that. But it was when I went to the roastery, Matthew Algie. I'm really sorry. I never know how you pronounce that. I always am led by the other person. Yeah,
I've got no idea. If anyone knows,
please tell me. But like in a nice, kind way.
Yeah, not in a like, you're wrong.
You idiot. It's pronounced. Well, I mean, it'll probably be like Flaugy or something, and I've just got it so wrong.
Silent A.
So sorry, yeah. Matthew Glee. Yeah, so I was at their roastery, and their head of coffee did a cupping for us. It was the very first cupping. Oh, I went right northern then. Very first cupping I'd ever seen. By gum. And she had like a lazy Susan, and she had these bowls on this lazy Susan and was like spinning them, and it must have been dry grounds, and she was sniffing them, and she was like giving all these coffees these attributes. So there was a Robusta on the table, and she was like, ugh, this is like a dirty tire. It just rolls over your mouth. This one is like a dainty ballerina, and she dances over your tongue. And I was stood, and I like had no concept of what I was looking at, but I was like, whatever she's doing, I want to do it. I want to know. I want to know what love is. It was very much like that was the moment. And after that, I very specifically oriented myself around finding out more about coffee, finding out more about what cuppings were, and eventually ended up working in a specialty shop because Waterstones was great, but now I wanted to do something quite specific with coffee. And at the time, we all go through this baby barista phase, don't we, where we're like, oh, I've got to like do the serious thing. I've got to work in a specialty shop that's talking about extraction or talking about TDS, because that when you first go in, those are the easiest bits to grab to try and orient yourself in this massive industry where you're like, where do you start otherwise? But that's the moment I think that it really crystallized for me, like, I'm probably gonna have to find out quite a lot more about this, because she was just amazing. And I was like, what are you doing? What's happening? I love it.
I mean, that sounds like a instrumental.
Yeah,
the instrumental pivoting in your career of. It was like this. I'm now intrigued, which is also like very interesting about how people can, with their teaching methods, like get you like suddenly like,
this is
I need to know everything about this.
Yeah, like I'm not sure I ever saw her again, but like and also it's so cool that she's a woman. Now I think about it, having been in the industry for long enough to know that was quite a rare opportunity for me as a young woman to see her and feel her as representation of what I could be aiming for.
Yeah.
But yeah, she probably has no idea that I'm like all these years later being like, you're amazing. I liked when you talked about the ballerina. I love you.
We need to find her and tell her. Like,
I'm pretty sure
surely.
Cam knows her, because Cam worked with Matthew for a long time.
Do you remember her name?
I think it was Eduarda, but I'm not confident on that. Hence why Cam, you better be listening / watching. You tell me so that we could give them the props that they deserve. Yeah,
absolutely. So, coffee interest was sparked at Matthew. What happened then after transition from Cafe W go to? That's not me saying that Cafe W is not a serious specialty coffee job, but that's how it felt at the time.
Yeah, it wasn't specialty. It didn't. Its USP was not specialty coffee. Its USP was you can sit down in a coffee shop in a bookshop with a coffee. You know, I think in our industry, particularly in the specialty aspect of it, we get really bad at remembering there's lots of manifestations of coffee and coffee experiences and coffee drinking experiences, which I'm sure we'll get onto later. But as I say, at the time I was like 21 and had that like the baby barista fever, and I lived in Leamington Spa, big up Royal Leamington Spa, at the time with my best friend Matt, also love you. He and I used to go to this coffee shop on the high street called Spa Town Coffee. At the time it was owned by Joe and Tina, and now it's owned by Henry. It's still going. You should go check it out. He's a lovely man. He also is a pig farmer. Just side note. So if you're in there, ask about the pigs. You won't regret it. Okay. I mean, very important PSA.
Know about the pigs,
he was also on Naked Attraction, but I don't know if he'd be massively pleased with that being public knowledge. I don't know. He went on telly and got naked, so people will know about that.
I think if you are doing that, which absolutely well done for doing that, then I don't know if that could ever be a secret.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I think it's probably okay to say it, but I might message Henry after this and just be like, would you be okay with this?
Well, it's in there now.
Yeah. Sorry, Henry.
Henry, we really respect you for that. You know?
Yeah, so at the time it was Joe and Tina, sorry. And because I went in there all the time, and then Matt ended up working there, that was where I was able to transition from Cafe W, which was much more, I don't like using the word commercial, but I mean it in the sense of the word that is commercial, right? Like business. Yeah. Its business was different.
It's not an insult.
That's it. Yeah, it just always feels weird because like, isn't all coffee commercial because we're selling it, right? But I think again,
we know what you mean, but I understand that you're trying to make yeah.
It was a very different approach to having a coffee business. So I went from Cafe W to Spa Town. This was when I first started learning about like dialing in and hand brew recipes. Caravan were the supplier at the time. I remember so clearly they had this like natural Ethiopian, and that was my, nowadays I think people getting into coffee are like, oh, I had this like anaerobic fermentation, or probably like a co-ferment now. But that's the thing, that they drink something and it is so at odds with what they had conceptualized the coffee sensory experience to be that they're like, I didn't know coffee could taste like blueberry juice. 100%. That coffee, that Ethiopian that Caravan had, I think it's called Gatiti, but I'm not sure about that. That was one of those as well. So I'd already like had this moment, I was all in on coffee, and then I had this Ethiopian and it was like, this tastes like white tea and blueberry. And I'm quite an obsessive person when I'm interested in something, so that really kind of paved the way for me to just really massively go in on specialty, reading all about it. I joined Reddit. I mean, I was like Reddit
for coffee,
which as it turns out not the best forum, but there were lots of tidbits. When you're like, I mean, I'm quite old, so at the time there wasn't this like Instagram, I feel, was not as like interconnected with your day to day, and when I was just trying to find like recipes and stuff, or like talking about ratios for hand brew versus a concentrate, Reddit was sort of the place I ended up going for it. And then you meet people, don't you, when you work in a coffee shop? You do. You just meet people, and that really is a lot of my driving force, I think, is like the people I end up connecting with. Because we had a regular who used to come into Spa Town called Nick, who I still speak to. Hi, Nick. Also works at coffee. You're great.
Shout out, Nick.
Hi, Nick. And he worked at Coffee Architects, which was another specialty coffee shop in Leamington. And he said that there was an assistant manager position going. And because I was like so into coffee and I wanted to just keep progressing. And Coffee Architects was like one of the most popular sort of brunch spots in Leamington. I went for it, and then I ended up working there, which was amazing because at the time it was owned by Sam, who is Dan and Jordan Harvey's mum. Big love to Sam, the hardest working woman. Oh my God. and like ran that kitchen whoosh, like a well-oiled machine. And obviously Jordan knew quite a bit about the coffee scene because at the time Dan was working at La Mazzocco, and so it's sort of, again, every step of the way I was just getting sort of closer and closer to these communities of which we know now we're in coffee, but when you're on the outside, particularly when you're not in London at the time, it felt quite difficult for me to know how to sort of start breaking into these spaces, and really it was just about meeting the right people, and that can happen outside of London, and I really do want that known, because I think it's very easy to feel like if you're not in city centre, you are not in the industry. And I say that knowing that there is a convenience aspect when you're in the city, because you're just, the proximity to industry events and industry people is higher, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. If you don't want to live in London, if you don't want to compromise, if you can't afford it, like, dude, it's expensive. It's penny there.
Really sad. Yeah.
But there are ways you can do it, right?
100%.
And so I have never lived in London, just in case anybody needs to know that. And I still feel very happy with how I've been able to navigate sort of progressing my career.
Yeah, it's not the being all and end all. Like, if you're in a really well-connected city and, like, that doesn't mean, even if you do live in London, that doesn't mean that you've got, like, a million opportunities knocking on your doorstep. Like, you have to kind of put yourself in situations.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, how important do you think it is to be in this sort of connected networking position, and people, you knowing people and people knowing you, like, and being almost exposed? Not in a weird way.
No, you're right. I think it's like there are two sides to it. I think a lot of it depends on who you are as a person and how you might otherwise navigate progression, right? Because like, you and I talk a lot about this, but like, I'm a woman, and I was cultured and I was socialized to be a woman, which often meant prioritizing sort of pleasant interactions with people, smoothing the experience, making them feel important. Whereas my two older brothers grew up in the same household as me, and because they're men, were socialized differently and are much more forthright. So if there is a potential opportunity, like a job description, they're more likely to just go for it. Whereas as a person, I'm more inclined to spend time with people, and that's generally how I end up exposed to opportunities. And it's usually through the peer support that I'm encouraged to go from them, rather than having this innate sense of, like, not ownership, but like I'm going to speak most specifically about my siblings, because that feels like the fairest and the one that I can draw on most easily. But like Jonathan, my older brother, he would see a job description, and if it was a job he wanted, he would just apply for it. Whereas I would be like, existential crisis over the concept of maybe thinking I'm important enough to apply for it. I'm getting better, but I think because of that, as a person, I really benefit from that networking side of the industry and meeting people. And then personality wise, I derive a lot of pleasure from just sort of like being around people and meeting people. And I say that with an awareness that not everybody functions like that. Like, I know a lot of people feel incredibly drained by it, and I do also recognize that, like in any industry, there ends up being cliques, there ends up being like friendship groups that can make you feel maybe on the outside or a bit insecure. So I know it's not a perfect industry, and I know it's not a perfect community, but I have been incredibly fortunate with the people that I've interacted with, met, and developed relationships with. And I think intentionally, right? Like, I think you do end up, like, I'm not going to be all slogan city, but I do think like your vibe attracts your tribe. I think the kind of energy you put out, the kind of things that you're interested in, naturally draws you to certain people. Like you and I think the last time we met up, we were like, I think this is the first time we've actually like specifically like hung out, but we've always known that we like each other, right? Because you just have this sense of where you align with people. And like Brian, I remember the first time, in fact it was in Bristol the first time I saw Brian, and I was like, I don't know who this person is, but I want to be their friend, because their energy that they put out, and there's that like delicious intangible thing, right? And that's why I think when I look at my network of people that I've been so blessed to meet and get to know along the way, I just think they're incredible. And I don't know how I'd have like how I'd have stayed in the industry, how I'd have navigated being alive, let alone in coffee, if it wasn't for these amazing people. Which is such a long-winded answer.
No, I mean, it's beautiful.
So sorry.
No, it's so great, and all the long-winded answers are very wanted here.
Good.
But no, it's a very good point, because like, where would we be without those people? And I wonder how unique that is to, because I just don't know. I've never been in another industry, so like, I don't know if that's just the case everywhere, but I kind of assume that it's not like that everywhere.
I don't get the impression. I feel very, very precious of that side of our industry.
Yeah,
it's not something I feel like I hear. So said sibling Jonathan, big up, is a banker man, right? He works in money and finance, very serious man. But I don't hear him talking about like the amazing people he's met through the industry. And this isn't me slagging off other industries. I'm just saying I think it is unique to ours.
No, and it's also a double-edged sword, because like, yeah, that's amazing for like all the things that you've just kind of highlighted, but it also does mean if that's not your natural inclination, or like an inclination that you can kind of, also I just don't want to just say natural inclination, because I think there is a part of it that's like, putting yourself in situations that maybe are uncomfortable.
Oh,
like,
I have multiple times. Doesn't
mean it's always that easy to walk into a room and be like, I'm gonna chat to these people today. That's not for everyone, and it can mean that actually, jobs do end up with people because you know them, rather than because they've been advertised in the right way.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
And I think like it's so difficult, because there is a mixture of like when it is appropriate to you and how you operate, pushing yourself, right? Because like, I know we've chatted about this before as well, but the very first cafe culture I went to, it was when Paul Ross was competing in the UK BCs, and I'd gone on my own because Ollie had bullied me. He didn't bully me. I always use that word and he gets very upset. Ollie had very nicely encouraged me to participate in the UK BCs, and I didn't really know the scale of this competition, right? So I'd gone to Cafe Culture to see the London heats, and Paul Ross was competing, and he'd like got a specialty instant coffee made, like an instant made of his coffee that he was competing with or something. I mean, Paul will know more accurately than me. Why my memory of it is fuzzy, because I was watching him and listening to him talk, and I was just so overwhelmed with imposter syndrome. I was like, who the hell do I think I am? I'm about to compete in the same competition as this person.
Is this before you went on?
This was before. It was like a couple of weeks before my heat, which was back in Warwickshire. And I had a full-on panic attack. I didn't speak to a single person there. I went straight to where the competition was on, watched Paul's set, had a panic attack, went to the coffee shop opposite the venue, called Dave, and I was like, I'm an idiot. I don't know why I'm competing. I've just watched the competition. It's really serious. People take it really seriously, and I don't even know anything about anything. Why am I telling you this story? I've gone so wildly off topic. Oh, the pushing yourself. Sorry. So sorry. I do not, I'm sorry. The editing for this is going to be...
It's not edited
for you. So sorry, it's not edited. So in that case, I'm sorry, listener / viewer, because I never met a tangent I didn't take. But basically, is at that time in my life, I was young. I was dealing with like mental health problems that I wasn't really on top of. And I had this experience, which I could very easily see as being the end of all coffee experiences, right? I could have walked away then thinking, the industry isn't for me. I didn't see myself represented. What I saw represented felt impossible to me from a knowledge or even like confidence perspective. And that could have been the end of my story in coffee, which sounds very dramatic.
No, but it's so good to highlight, right? Because you could have just gone, this is absolutely terrifying and I don't fit in here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure for no reason that we could ever dismiss anyone for, people have done that, you know?
Yeah.
Of course.
This is it. And I think that's why I want to tell that story, because had younger Grace chosen to leave the industry at that point, I think that would have still been valid. And it's hard sometimes to know when you're making the best choices for your mental health or physical health or your professional health, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
On that day, if you'd have asked me, I would have said no. I would have said it's not a space for me and it's not a place for me. And that would have been incredible. That would have been valid because I remember that feeling. But instead, I went back to, so I've like gone out of order, but by this point I was working at Warwick Street Kitchen, which is where I went after Coffee Architects, to manage Warwick Street Kitchen. And that's how I met Ollie, who did not bully me, who encouraged me to participate in the UKBCs. So that's how I ended up here. Sorry for being all out of order on that.
No, oh my God, no. It's I thought you meant like it's how you ended up here, as in like where here where you are today, which also is true. Right?
Yeah. This is the dominoes again, right? So like that panic attack happening could have been the last domino that fell, but instead what happened was I went back to Warwick Street Kitchen, where I had the most amazing manager, Lydia Papaphilopoulos Snape. Great name, great person. Still runs Warwick Street Kitchen, runs Warwick Street Bakery, and runs Saint Kitchen in Birmingham. So like absolute powerhouse of a human. And I went back to her, who just really, really took the time to like hear my fears and my feelings of imposter syndrome. And this, I mean, I think a big driver in my life is like I've always been afraid to be seen as an idiot, like an actual moron. Like my actual worth relates to my intelligence or my ability to do a thing, which is not true, but it's how I've operated. So I think really I was also scared about doing this competition and like revealing my own lack of knowledge and my own idiocy on a platform where everybody else was an expert, was my perception. Sure. But Lydia was great, and she taught me through it, and like, why is it that you want to do it? I chatted with Ollie, and he said, are you doing this because you want to win? I was like, no, because it genuinely wasn't an option in my mind that I could win. Yeah. But I wanted to do it to learn and to meet people. And he was like, then you're doing it for all the right reasons. So you should just do it, because you can't fail at learning and you can't fail at meeting people. If you know those are the reasons you want to do it, go and do it for those reasons. So between Ol and Lydia, I was encouraged to still do that. And competition didn't get me where I am. I want to be like super clear on that, because not everybody wants to compete, and it isn't the right space for everybody, and it isn't always accessible for the people we need to be platforming. What competition did for me was open that door even wider to show me that there is this whole community of people and there's this breadth of expertise. Like in my heat, someone made the judges wear like pure oxygen masks, because he was talking about how, in coffee we control for like the roast temperature, the moisture, the development, the extraction, the water quality, but we don't control the quality of the air. So he made the judges wear oxygen. And obviously, I mean, we all know that didn't make it to the finals because we haven't seen it on the stage. But even me seeing that, I was like, God, there are things I've just never thought about in relation to coffee. I've never thought about air quality. I've never thought about the cup. I've never thought about the spoon. All these like extrinsic factors that add to your coffee experience, the people you're with, etc. So what competition did for me at that time, I think, was introduce me to the potential breadth of this industry if I wanted to go in. And boy, howdy, did I want to go in. Didn't do well at competition, forgot to tamp, terrible mistake. But then Claire Wallace did that at World, so I'm like, maybe I was just, ahead of my time. No, I have never competed again. I couldn't do it. I think they're amazing, but I couldn't.
I think these kind of experiences highlight is what I'm seeing anyway, is like how important that encouragement piece is. Would you have competed without Ollie Jones being being there to talk you through everything and being that sounding board for what you're about to do, and or Lydia, or all these, like, if you didn't have those people, that would be this big barrier, right?
That's absolutely it. Yeah. And this is we talk a lot about barriers to entry in the industry because there are so many of them. And a big one I feel like I see a lot is is really when people are very insecure about their knowledge or insecure about their position, either because they are insecure people or perhaps the industry has made them feel insecure, as in, well, there are only X number of opportunities for queer women and I have one. So even though I should want to open the door for you, I'm not going to, because if I open the door for you, I'm scared that means I lose my spot. Like, there's a lot of this. I see it so often in our industry where it seems to me that it's fragility that stops people facilitating others coming in through the door. But I have been so lucky because it's really rare that I've encountered people who have not really brought me along with them and opened the door for me and held my hand. And I just feel so, I think this is why I get so emotional all the time at events. Like, I've cried on stage at like every industry event I've been at, because I just think like the power is the people, and the people that you are surrounded by quite literally make the difference, right? Like, you're right. Like, if Al hadn't have been there, if Lydia hadn't been there, I probably just wouldn't have done it, and I would just still be walking around thinking I'm a person not capable of being on stage, which is now really funny because it turns out, even surprised to myself, I love being on stage, which is just, you could not have convinced me of even like a few years ago, you know?
How does it feel to be like, from your words, saying that you competing in BCs didn't go to plan?
It didn't.
And now you MC that exact competition.
Yeah.
How is that feeling?
I think it definitely informs how I want to speak to the people who are being so brave and getting up on stage and doing that performance piece. Because even though I did it once, I still remember very viscerally, like, tasting my own heartbeat and the nerves. And I know one experience is not every experience, but I really respect the people that do it, and I try and bring that respect to the bit afterwards where you get to interview them. And I just think it's such a privilege to get to meet some of like the best in the competition scene, get to know them, get to see them come back year after year, change their routines, change their approach. And also, I think as a person interested in the industry, it is also very informative to see what people bring to competition, and like where that does or doesn't relate to like we're in Dare Shack now, there's a coffee shop out there, you know, like the connection or the disconnection between the sort of behind the bar offering and the competition scene, and seeing who is highlighting what and where those links are or aren't, and if that makes me want to do anything differently in my job, or when I ask the questions, I want to really like celebrate if they're bringing certain things that like to the stage that are important, you know?
Yeah, of course.
But it is crazy because I do often feel like, who the hell am I? Like, why am I here? But this is my little brain demon, I think, that we were talking about earlier.
The brain demons that live inside of our heads.
Yeah.
We have so much in common. But I think that empathy that you obviously have for people, I mean, I think you would still have it for them anyway if you hadn't been in that position, just knowing what a lovely, caring, wonderful, kind person you are, and that's how you operate. But like the fact that you can actually be like, I remember being in that position, like, is such a strength to like how you bring your energy and wonderfulness to the stage in those situations.
Thanks.
How did that come about?
This is the story of people again.
I've also never asked you this, so this is fresh
brand new news
to
me.
This
isn't in the notebook. Oh God.
No, are you reading my notes?
No, I was just like, this isn't in the notebook.
It's not in the notebook.
So after the shocking events where I did not win the UK VCs,
by the way, was year of,
I think it was 2019.
Okay.
I had blue hair, and Estelle competed at my heats at Warwick University. 2018, 2019? I think maybe 2019.
By the way, I also do years
by
hair.
Oh my God, me too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had blue hair, so it's really
literally great.
We are very very similar people. Yeah, but like that was when I had no hair, so that must have been in this segment.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, so after I didn't win, shocker, but still felt like I won something. I know it's so cheesy, but just really did it and felt so proud of having done it. I went back to Warwick Street Kitchen and I carried on managing there until so my grandpa, who is the greatest human being that's ever been alive, sorry everybody else, Don wins that one.
We love Don.
He was amazing, and he had lived in Frome my whole life, and as we approached 2020 he was really kind of going towards the end of his life, and he was a massive person for me in so many ways, but like I'd spent a lot of my childhood with him. I had just a great relationship with him, and even though I loved running Warwick Street, I think I was ready to maybe leave Leamington. And my now husband, he's a tattoo artist, and he'd done a guest spot in a studio in Frome. And they had said if he wanted to go and like work there permanently, that could be an option for him. And I was like, great. Let's do it. We'll move. I can be close to Grandpa. I can help out with that end of life stuff and not miss out on this really important thing. I've forgotten why I'm telling you this. I've gone so wildly off topic.
I was asking how I became MC.
So sorry. I'm trying to do the groundwork so this makes sense.
Yeah.
So we moved to Frome. We moved to Frome. In what turned out to be the first week of international lockdown. So it was terrifying, right? Like I did think we might have made the worst decision ever. Tattoo artists couldn't work during COVID. Shocker. They've got to get in your space.
It's quite close.
Yeah, it's quite close. And I had been offered a job at Society Cafe in Bath. Big up Society.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Jane and Adrian. But then because lockdown happened, I think I did like a week, maybe not even a week. And I was just like handing out cake, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna have a job anymore. It was all very scary.
Handing out cake.
I was like handing out cake because the cafe was closing, right? So we had all these like tray bakes in, and they didn't want it to go to waste. They didn't know when they were going to reopen again, and everybody in town was like, "Is this the last time we're allowed out?" And I was like, "I don't know. Do you want some cake?" Oh my god, it was so surreal. God, the whole of lockdown now is like a fever dream the whole planet went through.
Yeah, and was just saying actually yesterday, it feels like about 50 years ago.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And don't you feel like time has not passed in the same way since? Like when I look back on, like we're in 2025, which means 2020, but like genuinely, right? Because then it's like that means 2020 was 5 years ago.
No,
I
don't believe it for a second.
Thank you. Yep, it's a conspiracy.
Somehow,
don't know how, but probably. So yeah, so I was worried. I was worried that I was like, oh god, this is it. This is the end of my coffee career, isn't it? Because I'm barely in the Southwest. I have no network here, and now I'm not even able to work. Yeah. But luckily, the patron saint of Grace Talbot, aka Ollie Jones, had also pushed me in a very gentle and not bullying way. Ollie, I've never called you a bully. I'm sorry. He very gently pushed me to apply for the Youth Academy. So the Simonelli Youth Academy in 2020 was doing its first UK students. So very briefly, for people who don't know it, the Youth Academy is for young coffee professionals who want a career in coffee, and it facilitates them getting a lot of SCA qualifications. So you do your professional barista, but you also do your, I'm trying to remember the word. What's the first level? Foundation. Thank you. Do your foundation in like green, roasting, everything, brewing. Like a scholarship, basically.
Great. And coffee scholarship.
And Ol had pushed me to apply for it, and classic me, I was like, no, I'm not good enough and I don't know anything. And he pointed out that's precisely why it exists. It's for people who don't know everything and maybe want to learn it, right? So I did listen to him, and God, I'm not sure I believe in God. Thank Gaia that I did, right? Because I did manage to get one of those 6 places in the Youth Academy. And then obviously lockdown happened and I couldn't work in the coffee shop. But I had my online classes with all my fellow students who I'm still so proud of, and I'm so privileged to know they're incredible people. And Emma Haynes, again, an amazing woman in coffee. She was our teacher. And Camilla, who we love, was also leading the Youth Academy. So that's how I met Cam, incredible. Who I just think is a phenomenal person. And through Youth Academy, met lots of other people and was exposed to a lot of opportunities. And I had learned that, as we said, by doing these things and occasionally pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, you met people, and those people turned into opportunities sometimes, because they'd be like, I'm going to this cupping, do you want to come? I'm going to this, do you want to come? You know how it goes. And Cam called me and she was like, how would you feel about volunteering at the UKBC semi-finals and finals? Because Cam was also part of the SEA UK committee. And I was like, oh, my instinct is to say no, because the little demon in my brain is like, no, you're a horrible goblin person, don't do it. But what I would try and do is say the opposite of what the demon person says. So I was like, yes, actually, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And she was like, okay, good. Because the person who was going to MC with Dan, they're competing now. So will you MC?
No pressure, but I like, really need you to do this.
Yeah. Well, I've already sort of said yes, so I guess I have to do this now. So it was people again, and because I'm me, I felt very nervous and very insecure about it, a lot of pressure. So Cam then introduced me to Sierra, who'd MC'd before and was competing in Brewers Cup that year, and she was also working with Claire, who was competing in the Barista Champ, and they were doing like a practice run through of their respective sets at assembly. And Cam introduced me to Sierra, and Sierra was like, just come along and you can meet us and you can like watch some of our routines. And because she'd MC'd before, she was like, you can ask any questions you've got. So again, it's like, and you'll notice that a lot of the people who have really helped me, who have really like opened these doors and made space and supported me, are women as well, which is another thing that I know we align on, is just celebrating that, because they aren't buying the lie that there's a finite amount of space. They're saying, hell no.
Yeah.
We need to rebake the pie. This isn't a matter of like you having a bit of my wedge. We're making a new one. And these women, all of them, Emma, Cam, Lydia, Sierra, Claire, like nobody was like, no.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. It's such a good point.
Yeah.
And also that, I mean, I feel sad for the people who think that line does exist.
Yeah.
And that there's only a certain amount of space, because it's not true.
But
I don't think. But
you understand why people end up feeling that way. You get told all the time, it's like that equal rights somehow means giving up some of yours.
Yeah.
And that's the greatest lie that prevents us from like progression, I think, is this 100%. Idea that even that rights are finite is such an absurd idea. It's like, it's not. And you having more of them does not take away from mine. But the fear mongering that goes in, it's people again, it's this insecurity thing that they're worried that ultimately they don't deserve their spot, that they may have got it because perhaps they are the top of the chain, maybe they are a straight white man, and maybe they completely deserve the position they hold.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes they can get fearful that they've benefited from a system that they now are required to be complicit in case they don't still get the opportunities. It's, I've gone again.
100%.
The tangents are tangenting.
No. We do need them to tangent. But I am gonna talk to you about the next step in your
Yes, please do.
In your career.
Coffee bouncing.
Coffee bouncing.
Yeah, I just feel like I would like bing, 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 bing into all
it
these
doesn't
amazing.
look like that from the outside.
Okay,
I mean, it kind of looks quite deliberate.
Okay.
But, I mean, I know what you mean. I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
okay.
Which I've got this wrong quite a few times with other people. I'm like, I think this is how we met, and they're like, no, we met before. Or I wasn't there. I don't know. Was at Girls of Grind.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's where I think we met.
I think so.
Because I think there's a picture of me for Casey trying to hold you.
That did come up in my memories the other day. Actually, really? I did screenshot it. I'll send it you later.
When I have my little orange head.
Orange head.
Yeah.
Was it orange? Was it? It was definitely shaved. I don't know if it was.
I think
more
it was
like
orange.
I
think it was orange though, because Casey also took a
orange.
picture of me where I looked like Phil Mitchell. Like, it's the worst photograph of me ever taken, genuinely. And I had orange hair, and it was at London Coffee Festival. I'll find it for you.
Always looked at you and thought,
Phil
maybe
Mitchell.
That reminds me of. I'm obviously joking. No.
Sharon, that's an Ozzy Osbourne.
That's Ozzy.
But wasn't he married Sharon in EastEnders. This is going to shock you.
Who he pushed? Did someone push someone down a cliff?
No, that's Janine.
Oh, sorry. Obviously, this is not my
Barry,
strong point.
Isn't it? So,
Barry,
oh
yes.
God, sorry.
Who does look quite a lot like Phil.
Yeah, maybe that's where I'm going wrong. I just did an Ozzy Osbourne impression for everybody. I'm from Birmingham. What can I say?
I mean, I have
Rest in peace.
recently been binging. God, what is going on? Binging the Osbournes, which has great.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sorry, so sorry.
you were headhunted. Essentially.
Well,
yes,
no,
you were.
No,
Yes, you were.
no.
You
so,
were. Let me tell the story. I don't know why I'm telling you a story. I heard you were at a cupping and then you were headhunted by Girls Grind.
That is a very specific presentation of what are true facts, but context matters, right? So in the Youth Academy, Emma Haynes, I just feel this is very important for people to know. I don't know why. But Emma Haynes did a project with Kat from Kat at Export to help bring in a coffee from someone called Luz. And how they did it was they asked various roasteries whose coffee was being shipped over in this container to give up a little bit of space so we could bring their coffee over. And Girls Who Grind were one of the people that Emma and Kat had approached about this project. And because I was living in Frome, which is very, very near to the roastery, I was the nearest member of the Youth Academy available to go to them and kind of talk about this. And so I went there and we cupped this coffee that they were helping bring over and that they were going to roast and release as part of this Youth Academy sort of Cat project. Like, it wasn't explicitly Youth Academy, but a lot of us got involved. Doesn't matter. And then after I went to that cupping, Casey, who is one of the co-founders of Girls Who Grind, called me and was like, would you be interested in joining the team? Which at the time was such a pinch me moment. But
which equates to headhunting.
No, because it's not like I was out in the wild and they were like, this person.
You didn't apply for a job.
But I would have applied for this job if it had been listed. Yeah. I was
Still
very,
years
very,
on.
very, very fortunate is the thing.
And
Again,
also, obviously, they saw something in you, which...
probably annoying passion. I think I probably said, I love Girls Who Grind, like about 17 times when I first walked into the roastery, because I had been aware of them for a long time and had really resonated with what they'd set out as their mission, you know, and that had drawn me to them at that time in my life. So it was very, like, surreal being in their roastery and... like Fee and Casey are great, and you know,
also instrumental in my coffee career, I have to say. Like, so the first ever event that I put on when I worked in a cafe in Sheffield was a event with Girls Who Grind on International Women's Day in 2018. And probably for me, like, the first time that I was like, oh, there's like more to this, you know, like oh, there's like people doing really amazing stuff. And I mean, I had absolutely no idea any of the like paths that people, I didn't really understand that people worked in like
that there were like professional routes you could take in coffee. Exactly. Totally.
So definitely like an open door moment of like, oh, come and have a look inside here, you know. Just because I think it's such a beautiful story, and only if you want to share it, you did tell me that it's almost this like full circle moment of that you'd written them in a certain list.
Yeah, of
only
course.
if you
wish
to share said list, because it's so gorgeous.
So I struggled a lot with eating disorders when I was younger, and had really quite a bad relapse when I was about 23, I think, and was probably the first time I like truly participated in the therapy. I think before then I had just been about like gaining enough weight to be considered not a problem anymore, and not really dealing with like quite a lot of the root stuff. But I had this amazing therapist called Andy. This was back when I was working at Warwick Street in Leamington, and he asked me, like, one of my exercises was to write down a list of reasons like external to me, because I was so down on my own value and everything external to me, that were like reasons to stay alive is like become the phrase, right? Because Matt Haig wrote the book Reasons to Stay Alive. He's a very, very good guy on mental health. But I think at the time it was just reasons to like have hope was more how I felt about it. And I had things like the moon on there. I'm a very like romantic. I like poetry. I'm not ashamed of it. I had like the moon, you know, the changing of the seasons, dogs. The fact they exist is a pretty good reason to stay hopeful.
Number one for me.
Yep. It was a very long list. And on there, I had actually written Girls Who Grind Coffee because this was at a time when I was really like wanting to do coffee. I was immersing myself in coffee culture and the idea that there were these people out there who similarly had their own coffee experiences and had felt pushed out of the industry because they were women, particularly parents. And instead of being like, okay, we've been pushed out, that's the end of our coffee story, they had set up a business that was like, the perception I had was that it was like about challenging those industry norms that push women out, that push parents out, that push anybody out that don't fit this really very specific cookie cutter sort of formula. And Girls Who Grind existed, and it was on my list of hope back when I was, you know, without quite a lot of it. And then here I was a few years later, like in the roastery. And do you know what I mean? Like that was just... Life is crazy, and it's the dominoes again. Like I didn't know when I wrote that list that part of getting better, part of getting well, would open me up to opportunities to like fully engage with this career and fully engage with this industry and fully engage with the people you meet as well. Because when you're in the depths of an eating disorder, at least my experience was, it makes your world very, very small. Like I wasn't really about anything that didn't serve this disorder because it kept me safe, supposedly. But numb was really the word. And I didn't know that getting better could be so much better, right? So and again, if anyone's listening, not to be too heavy with it, but if you're going through things and you feel like it's the sum total of your life and your existence, I know you'll probably hear this all the time, but there are, like, the sun comes out. It really does, and it is just better. Like, there is nothing that I've encountered having been recovered that is ever even approaching as bad as it was when I was ill. Like, there's nothing. There's been some bad times.
That is such a good point, actually. 100%.
Got heavy, sorry.
No, let's get heavy.
Let's get
heavy. Of
heavy
course.
metal.
No, thank you for...
which I also love.
Oh my God. No, thank you for sharing.
No,
because
thank
I think
you for asking.
Like, people need, like, people literally need to hear that as well.
Yeah, and if anybody does ever want to talk to me about it, I've been in some dark mental health spaces. I still co-inhabit them. I'm not sure I'll ever be fully out, but I'm always open to talk about it. And I'm not embarrassed about that thing. There's a lot I'm embarrassed about. I sang down this microphone earlier. That was pretty embarrassing. But I'm not embarrassed that I was pretty cuckoo and am still.
And as I keep telling you, there's no editing. So that'll be in.
Yeah.
I'm not
like that you
again. Still remembered that.
Oh, I'm going to think about it in like the middle of the night, every night for the next 6 years. I'm like, you went, I want to know what love is.
No one else. Well, it's, no.
Yeah, it's the demons. They're in there.
If it's okay with you, I would love to talk about another part of something that really influenced not to make this about me, influenced my career, and kind of my outlook on how I do things and how I like best practices, and like honestly feels like a bit of a turning point even for me, just having witnessed you in this space. Not this space as well, but this lovely sofa. I don't know how we're ever going to get off it. Is when you were working at Cup North, and specifically, if I'm talking about my experience at Manchester Coffee Festival, and the I don't know what the right word for it is, but like accessibility focus that you kind of brought to a coffee festival and were instrumental in running. Is that fair to say? I know you won't admit to that, but yes, I'm saying yes. Yeah. Because I had like, I think it was 2022 Manchester Coffee Festival. I'm pretty sure.
What hair did you have?
Well, the thing is, the reason when you said that thing about COVID earlier, I was like, well, I've pretty much had, when we came out of COVID, that's when I dyed my hair.
Yeah.
Just coincidentally. So actually, after then, all time I stayed the same because I've had the same hair.
Okay, so we can't do the hair thing.
No, exactly.
What hair did I have? Was I bald? I think it was 22. Yeah.
I think it was 2022. I was working on the stand of the company that I worked for at the time, and was doing machine demos, and there was a wonderful, wonderful human who came up, and he was deaf.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't do sign language, and we were communicating through writing, but tried the best that I could to try and give him a machine demo experience. And I felt so grateful in that moment that you'd create this space that the deaf community felt like they could come to, because you had sign language interpreters there. And for me, it just made this, it kind of clicked in my head that it's like, you can't wait for people to say, oh, actually, I can't.
This is what I need.
I can't get around at your coffee festival. Your coffee festival doesn't work for me. You have to put those measures in before. And I wondered how that was for you. What your motivations were behind that, and also is that something you see other festivals doing? Because I don't really see it at the moment.
So again, without trying to waffle my way into context, I have a lot of loves in life. I'm very lucky, and one of them is British Sign Language, because when I finished my A-levels, I got into uni and everything, but I knew I was in coffee, and I knew I wanted to travel a bit and do coffee, but I was also really conscious of not losing the ability to learn and to study, formal learning, I think, is because I was learning quite a lot in coffee. Anyway, so I just was like, what's interesting? What can I do? And British Sign Language Level 1 was a course that I could do. And one of my earliest lessons, my teacher Sandra, who is she was born deaf, she was signing to us, and she was like, oh, my favourite musician is Elton John. And we were a group of hearing people, so we all sort of nodded, and we were like, oh, well, yeah, Elton John's great, Cool. And then she laughed, and she was like, hearing people are so funny because you're so stuck in your own experience that you haven't thought anything other than, oh, her favourite musician is Elton John. She was like, I was born deaf. How do I have a favourite musician by your standards of music? And I remember being like, oh my God, she's so right. And then she went on to explain, that it was because he's so theatrical and he's got so much movement when he performs, that he was like a visual treat. And that's why he was her favourite performer. And the sign for British Sign Language for music is, I mean, if you're watching, it's two hands doing this, but it's two hands making the conductor shape. Because if you think about how you experience music visually, you see a conductor conduct. You see the performance of it, and that was another one of those moments where I just realized that I was living in this very particular existence, right? I had hearing, so my life was shaped by the fact that I had hearing, that I spoke, that I looked the way I looked, all of these other things. And studying British Sign Language increasingly brought me into another way of seeing things and experiencing life, and having such a huge appreciation for the culture and the people that I met along the way. It meant that even though simultaneous to this I was developing this love of coffee, I wanted to bring the two together as and when I could. So when I started working at Cut North, and I was thinking about events and what their function were, what are coffee festivals doing in our industry, and how are they helping, and where are they hurting as well, because you can accidentally replicate problematic power dynamics or continue to platform the same people that have always been platformed. And I really wanted to be intentional about sort of the programming side of it, and I was lucky enough that I was given sort of free rein in that way to do it. So it was just a no-brainer to me to bring interpreters in, because we're very, very, very guilty of pointing out, we've got a labour crisis. Like, nobody wants to work in coffee anymore, but we're not really good at doing the next bit, which is like, why? And like, when there's a whole community of people who aren't working in your industry, that's because you're not creating the space for them. And we have this really unfortunate habit of being waited to be told or asked on how to accommodate for people. And that puts all the onus on the people not included to educate people on including them. And like, as a queer woman, I'm the first to talk about this when people don't make appropriate space for queer people, for bodies that function differently, for women, for people who relate to my lived experiences. And I didn't want to only be doing that for like me and mine, like I wanted to bring in elements of the events that made it accessible to other communities. And I have a really limited understanding of lots of other communities, but in terms of deafness, I was like, well, obviously let's get some interpreters in for the talks and intentionally advertise the event at like the Deaf Centre in Manchester and like specifically be tapping into communities and saying like, it exists and the accommodations are already made for you. Like, we made sure that we had like a visual fire alarm so that it wasn't just auditory. We had different lighting. In all the briefs that went out to everybody, we said about sign language interpreters being there and asked people to have like written materials if possible. We taught all of our volunteers how to sign like fire, hello, please, thank you. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It was not perfect. But this idea of like perfection is the biggest excuse for doing nothing. Yes. Like, nobody is going to be perfectly accessible for everybody.
No.
But because you're not going to get it perfect does not give you permission to not even fucking try. And so yeah, it was something I feel very proud of, bringing the interpreters in. I hope to see it replicated. I can't say that I have. It isn't an excuse, but it is very costly to work with interpreters. It's a very difficult skill. It costs you a lot of money to become qualified. So what I would say is that the onus to do it should maybe not be on the people organising the festivals, because we know how much that ends up costing them. But perhaps if you're a big company and you want to participate in an event and you have the funds, the onus, I think, is on you to say, I can offer you £500 to pay for an interpreter, to pay for better lighting, to pay for a large print program, whatever. But it can't always just be on the individual. The people who have the deepest pockets should be reaching into them. I really, really do think.
And it's gonna, making that investment as well, like, it's gonna come full circle and grow our industry and like be hugely beneficial in the long run to those big companies, for sure.
And like develop it as well. Like, the amount of things I learnt from being in deaf communities and different ways of experiencing like music. Like, we used to go to deaf bass night where you would go into clubs and like take your shoes and socks off and there would be these big speakers like face down on the floor and you'd feel it. And you're like, there are so many avenues to like the existence of life, and the more people you meet and the more cultures that you're exposed to, the better it is. Like, I think our industry is so strange that it's not like gobbling up people left, right and centre, because coffee itself is global. It doesn't belong to one culture. It doesn't have one manifestation. And like, instead of being like, because this is this amazing tool that has so many different manifestations, we should gobble up all these other people and bring them in and help them like replicate their experience or their cultural heritage. We're trying to homogenize it, and that's sad, because that's not the beautiful thing about coffee or the coffee industry. It's the breadth of it. It's the diversity of it, not this like singular version of goodness. I say with heavy air quotes.
Just in case you're not
can't hear it down the microphone.
Looking at. No, honestly, like what you brought to Cup North, like hugely inspired me in my own work and events, and just like, so I'm sure you did the same for others as well. So that.
Well, I remember you worked with, where you used to work, the same interpreters, didn't you? Tracy worked.
Tracy!
Yeah, big up Tracy.
Shout out to Tracy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Absolute angel.
Oh,
amazing
we love
people.
Tracy.
Yeah, but it was nice to see that too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
God. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
But one thing I did want to end on, if you're happy to share the experience, is just, well, firstly to say you are in a new chapter now with Mio.
Yeah.
Which I live vicariously through you and your recent trip to Brazil.
Oh
and
my God.
seeing the birds.
And the dogs.
And the dogs.
Yeah,
and
the birds and the dogs.
Oh
You'll
my
have to come.
God.
Yeah.
I personally couldn't, because even, the bugs, unfortunately,
yeah. We had this conversation before. Yeah, so sorry. You could live vicariously through me. That's fine. I'll send you
just
pictures.
Don't show me the bugs.
I won't.
But
no, I'll do birds and dogs.
Monkeys as well.
Monkeys. We were looking at monkeys before.
But if it's okay for us to just touch on the experience of the transition between Cup North and Mio, you were, don't want to speak for you, but in all of our minds, like a very well established person that we all know and love in the coffee industry.
Not in my mind.
And when Cup North sadly was no sadly was no more.
Sound effects.
You don't need visuals for that one. To anyone from the outside, probably would just look like you'd be thinking, well, of course I'll get a job.
Oh my God,
get a job anywhere, because you're incredible and have a multitude of connections and a multitude of skills. And
no.
How was that time for you?
Yeah.
Overall?
So I doubt that anybody won't know, but for anybody listening who doesn't know, Cup North went into liquidation 8 days before Birmingham Coffee Festival was scheduled to happen. It was and remains to this day probably the biggest shock I've ever had in my life. We were all called into this meeting, and we were told the business is no more. The event isn't going to happen. Give us the contacts of everyone you've been talking to, and we're going to be in charge of kind of letting them know. Sorry. And we came off this meeting, and I just was like reeling, because it was in 8 days, the next event. A lot of people didn't know this at the time, but I was never scheduled to work Birmingham Coffee Festival because I was having surgery in 7 days. So I think unique to me at the very least was mentally I was at least prepared for downtime. But the rest of the team were gearing up for the busiest part of the year, which is when you're actually doing the event. So, I mean, the whiplash I had was insane. I can't even imagine for them. And this news coincided with World of Coffee. So, and we know, like, we've talked about the wonderful nature of our industry, but we've also said it's not perfect. And I knew everybody was together at this event. You know, there were going to be lots of parties and lots of socials, and this was massive news. It was massive news at any time in the year, but right before an event happening was particularly enormous news.
And also, like, when you're at an event like World of Coffee, like, you are having the same conversation with people over and over again, and actually having that bit of, I don't know if you want to call it gossip, but like, you know, having a conversation starter, of course you're going to gravitate towards that, and that's what's in your mind. Is
that
like,
was it.
People are talking about this. Like,
no, it wasn't like, oh my God, horrible people are saying horrible things about this.
Yeah.
I was thinking all the people I love will have this information, and I felt so sick and afraid that people would think I knew the business was in trouble, and that I had, like, because I had asked people to participate, like, kind of on the basis that we had a connection, like, you should come and do this because I've asked you. I had friends who'd signed up to compete, people who were exhibiting because I told them to, and I just felt so incredibly guilty. I knew all these people were going to lose all this money, and like I say, fueled by this, everybody will be talking about it because they're together, like the immediacy that this news could spread. And I also hadn't had any time to prepare. Like, we found out 2 hours before it became public news, and we didn't even know it was going to be made public that soon. How I found out was my phone started ringing, and it just didn't stop. Even to this day, I still get mad anxiety when my phone rings now, because at the time, wrongly, I must stress, my brain was like, everybody hates you. Everybody is coming, pitchforks being sharpened, the fires being lit. I mean, maybe I've got a massive ego because, like, but
that's how it is in your head. Like,
it was scary,
and
genuinely,
especially those thoughts get worse when you're not in the best place. state of mind anyway, and you were in a situation where you were like, I don't have a job, I'm going in for major surgery in 1 week.
Yeah.
Like, your brain is not on like positivity mode.
No.
You're trying to like keep yourself afloat.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like you start spiraling.
The spiral was real. Yeah.
How did you get through that time?
People, to be honest with you. So, as I said, my phone started ringing and ringing and ringing. And I didn't really want to engage with it because I didn't really have any answers either.
Yeah,
like, this
of course,
had just happened. But one of the people who rang was Casey, who is the co-founder of Girls Who Grind. And I answered the phone to her because she felt safe at that time.
Sure.
And she was just calling to say that she'd heard and that she wanted to check I was okay. And I was like, no, like, I'm going to have to move to Germany. Like, nobody's going to want me. I mean, also, I'm somewhat prone to the dramatics, but it's like, nobody's going to want me. This industry that I love so much, that I put all my eggs in the industry basket, everybody's going to be like, she's tainted, she's something I don't want to be associated with. Across these people, there's money, blah, blah, blah. Having, absolute crisis. And Casey was like, okay, I think this is how you're feeling at the time, but I don't think that is true. And she really helped me to just calm. She was a person in the industry, and as much as like we were friends, she didn't owe me a lie in that situation. And she didn't call me up going, oh my God, what have you done? What are you part of? She called me up to see if I was okay, right? And slowly, through swallowing the horrible anxiety and bit by bit reading some of the messages that were coming in, and actually seeing that people weren't calling to be like, you're a piece of shit. They were calling to be like, are you okay? That's horrible.
Yeah.
Which is why I refer to the demon in my brain, because she's a liar. She just lies, and she did not want me to reach out or be reached to by these amazing people, because it would have kept me alone and isolated, and then I probably would have left the industry because I wouldn't have connected with these people who were being wonderful and showing up for me. And like, as long as I live now, if I ever see anybody is made redundant, I'm going to just send them a message, because it's a horrible, horrible feeling. And you just need to know that people, like, don't hate you. Like, it's weird, isn't it? Because you shouldn't be embarrassed, but it feels embarrassing. And I felt ashamed, and nobody was coming at me being like, you should be. They were just seeing if I was okay. And I was just, in the end, so overwhelmed by the love and the support and the kindness that people showed me, that helped me to kind of keep my head above water. And one of the people who had reached out is my unbelievably amazing boss now, Anna Louisa. And she, like, people didn't capitalize on it, like, it's not like people are like, come work for me in like a horrible way. But I was very reassured when people were expressing interest in me joining them in a professional way, because I was like, okay, so you don't think I'm going to tank your business by association then? Like, I'm obviously not. Dude, I was so dramatic. I was just, it sounds silly now you're out of it, but that day I was just like, it's all over.
It really
was
doesn't
awful.
sound silly at all.
It was an awful feeling. But the industry showed up, man. Like, I was held by people, and Mia offered me the job. I remember talking to Anna before I went into the surgery, and I was like, right, well, I'm either going to die or I'm going to join your team. And spoiler alert, guys, not dead.
She's here.
Proudly part of Mia.
And we are so glad that you are
not dead. Thank you. Me too, to be honest.
I meant in the industry, but yes, also that.
But I do just want to say that Mia, like, when I first joined, it was after the surgery and I couldn't walk that well, and I was still doing physio, and they let me start 3 days a week, and they have just facilitated every step of the way the healthiest version of me being at work after the surgery. And just, if you've never heard of them, look them up, because all the people I have the unbelievable privilege of working with are just some of the best. But I'm going to cry if I keep talking about it. But like, thank you to them. Thank you to you. Thank you to everybody along the way.
Thank you to you. That's it.
That's it. Goodbye.
Oh, love you too.